Hey, Hound Dogs, I'm David Hankins.
I'm Paul Hankins.
And you're on the air with Power Squared. This week, since we're coming to the end of summer, sad to say, we thought we'd take a look at summer reading, which is something that's kind of as much as summer movies. People are supposed to lie by the beach and lie by the pool and read a book, which we haven't done, but we have actually read books.
Yes.
So we thought we'd talk a little bit about the books we've read and kind of why we read them.
All right.
And not necessarily get into if they're good or bad necessarily. That's not the point of this, but just sort of the books we've read.
All right.
All right. So let's start with you.
Okay.
You've read a lot of middle grade fiction this summer.
Yeah.
And tell us about that.
Well, I'm currently working on a book that's aimed at middle grade readers. I don't want to get into too much detail at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Partly because I don't want to promise something.
You don't have to talk about it.
But I figured since I'm writing middle grade, I might as well also read middle grade to see what my competition is like, and also just to get a better sense of how authors have written for that genre.
Right. So tell us some of the books you've read.
Well, I have a list.
An exhaustive list to go through.
Yeah, I should actually finish. I need to actually write notes down about these while I still remember.
Okay.
I kind of started in May, so if you don't mind me starting from around
No, that's fine. Well, summer is sort of in the mind, isn't it?
So I read a mix of just regular books and then graphic works. So I read Wonder, Each of Us a Universe, 2 Geronimo Stilton books, a Thea Stilton book, every single installment of The Bad Guys, the Ralph S. Mouse trilogy, which is Mouse and the Motorcycle, Runaway Ralph, and Ralph S. Mouse, Bunnicula, A Rabbit Tale of Mystery, which is the first book in that series, Power Up, Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing, and one of the follow-up books, otherwise known as Sheila the Great. My video game ate my homework. The first Dogman book, called Dogman. The first Pup Detectives graphic novel. The first All the Wrong Questions book. The first Dork Diaries book. 2 volumes of Phoebe and Her Unicorn. Smile, Rabbit Chase, and the first Arcade World graphic novel called Dino Trouble.
Wow, it's quite a lot.
I actually have some of them in this stack over here.
So, have you learned, something that you didn't already know about writing for that genre?
Yeah, kind of. So structurally, I realize middle grade books typically have short chapters. How short they are depends on the kind of book it is, of course. But I realize that's partly because of the reading level, and also partly because it's designed so that I realize it may possibly be designed so that kids could be reading it on their own. So in bursts, or parents are reading it with their kids in different situations, like at bedtime or something.
Right. Okay. So the story would move forward, but not we'll come back to chapter 2 tomorrow, kind of deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the subject matter is the camera went out of focus. The subject matter is typically I guess more kid friendly. It can handle it can bring up some relatively heavy subject matter, depending on the author, but otherwise it's not too complex. It's something that or if it's a more complex subject, it's done in a way that a someone in that from 8 to 12 can understand it.
So you read Beverly Cleary and
Judy Blume.
Now, have those and you've read some more modern books. Has there been a shift in how the stories are told?
I don't think I've read enough modern stuff to really give a definitive answer on that.
Okay. Are the subject matters different or anything like that?
I would say I'm actually not quite sure because
I wasn't trying to put you on the spot.
right. Well, I got the impression that over the decades, there are obviously with middle grade there are just as many genres as there are with other demographics,
right.
and there are just as many writing styles as there are authors. I noticed Judy Blume noticed that Judy Blume and Beverly Cleary are able to capture like the mind of a child really well when with their storytelling, and manage to make the subject matter relatable even like when I'm reading it now.
Oh, okay, that's quite the feat.
Yeah. I guess one difference between like the writing back then and writing now is even though there are some timeless works like from Judy Blume and Beverly Cleary, there's usually like one small detail that clues you into like, oh, this was written in like the 70s or something.
Oh, yeah, that's probably
like for example, bringing up elevator operators or the milkman.
Well, elevator operators and the milkman were gone by the 70s.
Well, I just said the 70s.
Yeah.
Decade.
Yeah.
But that kind of dates the work a little. But the story is otherwise timeless.
Yeah. It's sort of like stories that don't have cell phones in them, right? You know,
yeah.
Yeah. What? They always have cell phones? Break it to you. Okay. So.
And, yeah, I guess modern writers that are set their stories in the modern day, like I did not write down any author names here, but like Each of Us a Universe was a more recent book, and the setting feels more modern, but otherwise that book still tackled like that handles like that talks about cancer.
Okay.
And also like still tackles a theme of like friendship or like having to move on from like dealing with a tragedy or dealing with like divorce and stuff like that,
which is something kids have to go through.
Yeah. And of course the universal theme of friendship.
Love conquers all.
Well, it's gonna date itself in a few years because it directly mentioned the pandemic.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, but that's a major thing, and I don't know if that's going to kind of totally fade from.
Yeah.
I would imagine when you're 8 years old in 20 years, pandemic. What's that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, it's just the setting feels more modern, and maybe writers now feel more open about ready more to talk about certain subjects.
Well, I know with my own writing, which is not the subject here, I do bring up the pandemic,
right,
as impacting this person's life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a real thing,
Yeah.
And it's still going on to a certain degree. All right. So covered middle grade fiction.
Yeah, and I have some things here.
Okay. Is there something you want to share?
All right. So this is the first All the Wrong Questions book. Who could that be at this hour? Which I started reading mostly for myself because it's by Lemony Snicket and it's related to a series of unfortunate events which I read growing up. And so when Trevor and I realized, it's related, we figured we should read it. I read Smile because this came up in a lot of middle grade lists, and I actually got this copy at Comic-Con.
Is this a more modern? It's Eisner Winter. Is it a more modern book.
Yeah, the cover art is copyright 2010. So,
Okay. 10,
yeah.
12 years?
It's Raina Talgemeyer
Okay.
sharing. It's autobiographical memoir. That's it's a memoir.
Yeah.
So it's an autobiographical story where she talks about what it was like growing up and having to go through all this dental work, this complex dental work, and it was actually, that was an interesting read.
Okay. Now, where'd you get that at Comic-Con?
The Scholastic booth.
Okay. Was that the same time you got the other books? Sorry. Or was this a different Scholastic? It was different setup. I guess Scholastic had a booth.
Yeah.
Okay. Move on.
Anyway, because I read Smile, I'm also currently reading the first Babysitters Club graphic novel adaptation.
Now, I want to sort of bring this up as sort of old. It's a little old school. You went to the public library to check that out.
Yeah.
You didn't read it on your Kindle or on your computer.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to say that's kind of a...
Yeah, no, most of the books that I read off few minutes ago were me borrowing books from the library.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, libraries have a purpose still. A lot of times people think that, we don't need libraries anymore.
Yeah. So I'm in the middle of reading this.
Okay.
And I got more invested than like a younger me would probably have thought I would be from Babysitters Club.
Right.
Because, I was a little kid, so Babysitters Club to me was like 4 girls.
Uh-huh.
Then because of my middle grade journey, I've been reading stuff that's 4 girls is part of that, so less against reading stuff for that demographic. Okay. And
which is you're growing as a person.
And I'm not going to deny myself a good story.
Right. Okay. Good.
So this is the second Phoebe and her Unicorn collection. Phoebe and her Unicorn started off as a webcomic called Heavenly Nostrils, in reference to the unicorn Marigold Heavenly Nostrils. Okay. But then it got picked up for newspaper syndication, and so the title changed to Phoebe and her Unicorn. Okay. You got this. My book involves video games in some capacity.
Yes, it does.
A major capacity, so I've been reading game-related stuff like this.
Okay. Now, you're a gamer.
Yes.
Is this true to gaming? I mean, did you sense it's like, when the dramas on television try to bring up gaming and don't understand it?
There are more writers now that are gamers, but even from those authors, I get a little tired. I get quickly. Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to say this the right way. Even as I was growing up, and of course even now, I've gotten sick of like super generic depictions of gaming. I get maybe that's supposed to be more accessible, but I think authors should be more okay with getting specific into the game, because and there's also like how in Space Jam 2 as an example, they use just
that's fine.
They feel like they could just use video game logic to just do whatever they want, but video games actually have rules. Even games that don't appear like they have rules, and
they have a world they've set up. It has to work within that world. You can't just you can, but then people go, that looks really bad.
Yeah. So and a lot of the time the game isn't convincing as a game to me. It's just like a fantasy world with video game dressing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Or video game window dressing.
Right.
So it's okay to be specific.
Okay.
And then I also read one I recently read was Rabbit Chase, which is Alice in Wonderland, but Native American.
Okay.
And I have specific opinions on it.
Right.
Not necessarily the elements, but just the execution of the elements.
Okay. Well, I mean, sometimes people have ideas that don't come through the way they hoped it would.
Yeah, I like the idea behind it. I just thought it could have been executed better.
There was an image I saw, I think on, I want to say Instagram or Facebook or something, but here's the image in my head, and it was this redetailed, image of like a dragon attacking a town. It was all very well, and then how it comes out, it was just like this little sketch of a dragon kind of. Yeah.
So that covers the middle grade portion of our
show.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the big events for us was going to Comic-Con.
Yes.
And certain books came from that going there.
Yeah.
I want to start with, and this is again not a review show. This is just what we read.
Yeah.
I read this, Monster Hunter for Hire, which was written by Barry Gregory, who is the, I'll say, owner or culprit behind Kablam and Indie Planet.
I will say I think it's Biff Stone, Monster Hunter.
Yes, I'm sorry. Biff Stone. And I want to say Biff Stone is a kind of a pre-existing character that was sort of in public domain. I'm not really 100% sure about that.
Well, that's possible.
So he's sort of revitalized, and I think there's kind of a tendency. There was a whole panel that he was on about kind of taking, public domain characters, and I'm going to say that's a little bit of Rick's.
Yeah. His
stuff, I think, is a little of that too. I'm not casting aspersions on anybody, but
right.
I actually met him at a small press and talked to him, so I bought his book.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he's read our book. Probably not. All right. We went to Image, which we go to every year, and I bought this there. So it's Ed Brubaker's The Fade Out, which is sort of a film noir-ish story based in Hollywood. So there's a lot of things. I like Brubaker's writing and the artist Sean Phillips. I like their work together, and I like film noirs, and I like Hollywood. So it was an interesting read. Sort of kind of set in the 40s, which is a lot of the stuff we're reading recently is set in the 40s. So it was a pretty good read. As I think you pointed out before the show, it's sometimes the journey as opposed to the payoff.
Yeah, sometimes it's more about the journey than the destination.
Right, and I think in this case that was kind of true. I enjoyed the journey.
Yeah. I have a couple other comics here that came from Comic-Con.
Great, let's do it.
So one was I just finished reading actually was Stabbity Bunny, which is it started off as an independent focus on the book, focused on it, was originally an independent comic, but it got picked up by Scout Comics and has been their best selling book.
Okay, and the bunny is Stabbity.
Yes. I could not tell you what the plot is.
Okay.
Make of that what you will. I guess they recently kickstarted a volume 2.
All right.
Not sure I'd
back
read it.
Okay.
But you have to at least applaud them for making a successful indie book.
Yes. I'm very impressed when people can do that.
And something I talked about before on the show, kind of. Stray Dogs. Could not put it down.
Good.
Or I didn't want to put it down.
Okay.
And then we later bought the companion book, Dog Days.
Okay.
Which is worth reading after you read this.
Are they anamorphic animals, or?
Anthropomorphic in the sense that there's in the sense that they can speak.
Okay.
Yes, but it's like the dogs can only talk to each other.
Right. Okay.
Rule. Otherwise, I will say nothing because it's best to go in blind.
Okay. So prior to summer starting, or the beginning of summer, I don't know, I remember being hot.
Yeah.
And a Saturday, we had to drive. If you live in LA, there's very few like Barnes and Nobles around. We
Yeah.
had to go to Calabasas, which is close to where we live. And I picked up this graphic novel, The Great Gatsby. I know it's not an original story. F. Scott Fitzgerald's book, which I had not read, honestly. I saw the movie with Robert Redford and Mia Farrow, and
I might have been forced to read the book once.
so I thought this would be a way of kind of more of a fun way to read it. You know,
Yeah.
I don't think it's a really thick book to start with,
Yeah.
but I thought it'd be kind of an interesting way. And it was I was surprised at how, I think it was a little better than the movie,
Yeah.
but it was sort of very similar plot-wise to the movie.
Yeah.
Though I think,
Well, that tracks because they're still both based on a book.
yeah, so I can't say, oh, this was really close to it.
Yeah.
And I thought it was interesting. When we went, there were two different graphic novels of The Great Gatsby, which I thought was kind of weird. Like, you think somebody had the idea and then somebody else also had the idea at the same time, or
It's possible.
they just are willy-nilly licensing this book or whatever. I just thought it was kind of interesting. So maybe the other one's better. I don't know. I just thought I liked the way this looked better at the time, so I read that. We're also, as you know, if you've been watching, we started a comic book club,
Yes.
sort of our own fashionable book club. So I was the one that actually, of the three of us here, that read Family Spy.
Spy Family.
Spy Family. Yeah, right. Spy Family. So it was left to right. Anyway, so it wasn't the first manga I've read, but it was very well done. I liked it.
Yeah. As we said, so definitely. Sure, are still reading it. So.
Yes. And for a future, which isn't going to be in September,
Yeah.
we're all reading Black Sad, which is it's described as written by Spanish. It's a French graphic novel written by Spanish
Yeah.
writers, and I guess the artist, and it's set in U.S. in the 40s in New York.
Yeah.
It also has one of the stories takes place in New Orleans, but it's again film noir-ish. Right?
Yeah.
Anamorphic animals.
Anthropomorphic.
Whatever, how you pronounce the word. Anyway, I thought it was good.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed it. Again, I think it helps to be a little familiar with film noir.
Yeah. Camera went out of focus again.
Yeah, as it's going to do. I have been reading, and we've actually met him,
Yes.
David Sedaris, which is probably 1,000 million people have met him by now,
Yeah.
but we met him. So I bought his new book, which I am reading. I'm still reading it, as you can see. I have a bookmark in there somewhere. He's got sort of rich guy problems. It's sort of not quite the everyman that he started out being, because when you're dealing with issues with your second summer home, it's a little hard to relate as it used to be easier. And I'm also reading a collection, which you can see by the bookmark, I'm still reading it. Woody Allen, Zero Gravity, and I don't want to hear anybody, but Woody Allen, blah blah blah. But anyway, so I'm reading this.
This is not the place to talk about it.
No, this is a collection of works that I believe he's done. One of the reasons I subscribed to The New Yorker was the promise that Woody Allen writes for it, David Sedaris writes for it, and I haven't really seen a Woody Allen since I subscribed, and David Sedaris I've seen one or two maybe articles. So it's good to sort of get a collection. This is a little, I'll say, less fun than some of his previous writings, but again, so I have to finish it first before I can say if I enjoyed it or not. But it's basically a collection of stories, essays, as is the David Sedaris. So it's kind of, in some ways, Woody Allen kind of, I mean, he's written books before, which are a series of essays. His are more fiction to begin with. David Sedaris tries to base his kind of on his own life, more. Yeah. And this is, Woody Allen was more of was started out as a stand-up comic, and can kind of easily write humor. So I think he's kind of a little more mature as far as his approach. And David Sedaris, of course, is, kind of, I'll say, the modern humorist.
Yeah.
So, anyway, those are the books I've been reading, and mispronouncing all the words apparently as well.
I've also been still keeping up with manga.
Okay.
In general, one that I recently read was One Piece Volume 100.
Wow.
You could probably tell my opinion of One Piece if I'm still reading after 100 volumes.
Yes.
And literally over 1,000 chapters.
That would make sense.
This volume actually covers chapter 1005 to 1015.
Which is 10 or 11.
Yeah, and I guess it's closer to the end of the Wano arc, which has been pretty long. And
now, it's an amazing feat to write that much.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, is there times you feel like it's filler, or every chapter hits it out of the ballpark?
The thing about One Piece is, like, there is no filler.
Okay.
Because, at least in the manga, there is no filler. There's a ton of filler in the anime, which is why I stopped watching that.
Okay.
But the manga, pretty much every detail becomes important later, even if it takes hundreds of chapters to become important later.
Okay, wow. All right.
Like, might be mispronouncing the name. There's a character,
don't worry about it. I've mispronounced many words already.
I'm just going to say Silver's Rayleigh. And he was first seen in a very early chapter, and like hundreds of chapters later, he's a major character.
Oh. Well, it's very planning ahead, I guess.
Yeah. He was on Gold Roger's pirate crew, so he actually almost told Luffy what the One Piece is, but Luffy decided he wanted to find out for himself.
Okay.
And One Piece is actually entering its final arc in Japan. Ichiro Oda actually went on a 1 month hiatus so that he could at least a 1 month hiatus so that he could properly plan out the final arc.
And how many chapters do you think that's going to be? 10,000.
That's at least going to be 3 years.
Wow.
So that'll probably be over 100 chapters.
It's like a chapter a week, right?
Yeah, except Oda is a workaholic to the point where during the Dressrosa arc, he got hospitalized.
Right.
And from overwork. And it was to the point where he's a workaholic to the point where even on the hospital bed, he was still trying to draw One Piece, and they had to physically remove the pen from his hand. You have to at least admire the dedication, but not to the point where... So because of that, he takes 1 week off. He is mandated to take 1 week off a month for the sake of his health.
Okay, so it's 3 chapters a month.
Yeah.
So it's 36 a year.
Yeah.
Oh, so a lot.
Yeah.
Or it could be 52, so it could be 40 chapters a month, depending on the week.
Yeah.
Wow, it's a lot.
And admittedly, as One Piece has gone on, there have been some like pacing issues. Like Dressrosa took way too long, and Wano, to me, is feeling like it was dragging in places. But at least it doesn't have like. At least it's not like Dressrosa, where part of the bulk of that is there's like 15 flashbacks, and they introduce all these new characters. okay, with Wano they do introduce like a million characters, but it feels like it's paced better and is at least broken up into acts.
Okay.
So this is like the third act here, or in the third act. So it at least has some sense of structure that way, so it doesn't feel like it's dragging as much. But the final battle, it's like, just defeat Kaido already.
Are there any books you wish you'd read this summer?
uh
I'm gonna hate myself because I know the book I want to read, but I can't think of the title.
I don't know. I don't know about books I wish I had read, but as for books I'm going to read,
Okay.
I'm going to read TMNT The Last Ronin. So it's like, well, I wanted to read, I was curious about that anyway, but also we paid a lot for this pre-signed copy.
Yes,
at
I'd like to read
Comic-Con.
that too, by the way. Just, again,
You'll get your chance.
all right, because it was a hard fought. Okay, but it was. Yeah, actually, did I get like the last copy or something? There was something I got the last of. I thought.
Maybe. Looking for a title.
Yeah, if I can get to it. Oh, actually, it's not on here.
Oh, alright. Otherwise I was going to fill in the time talking. I could easily talk more about One Piece.
I'm sure you could. We could do a whole show on One Piece, but
Probably.
I'm not going to. But yeah, and then I also bought a book about, again, when we went to Barnes and Noble, about the history of, God, I can't think of the hotel. Was in The Godfather.
Yeah.
Not The Godfather, but The Deal, or what was it?
The Offer?
The Offer. Whew, man. It's new glasses. They're screwing me up. No, The Offer. Chateau Marmont.
Yeah.
And it's the history of that. Because I was kind of curious, because I think they played kind of fast and loose with some stuff. And actually, I know they did.
The thing you got the last one of at Comic-Con was a Bleach volume.
Okay. All right. It's all a blur.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's right. I did get the last one. Thank you, Trevor. We have a fact checker.
Yeah.
So.
I guess one last thing about One Piece.
Sure.
Just read the manga. The anime's pacing is really bad.
Okay.
Like, it takes half the episode for the new thing to actually happen, because they spend half the episode. You could literally skip the first 5 minutes, and then it's the thing. But even then, then it's the story. But even then, they're adapting like half a chapter an episode,
Okay.
which is why there are 1,000 episodes.
All right.
But also all the filler. So the pacing is just way better in the manga. So just read the manga.
Okay. So I think that kind of wraps up our summer reading.
Yeah.
Next week we'll have Rachel and Julia will be joining us along with Trevor
Yes.
for
Our monthly team meeting.
our annual team meeting, our monthly team meeting. And then I don't know what we're doing after that, so stay tuned.
Yeah. So if you're watching this on YouTube and you want to see more, or you like this, leave a like and want to see more. Subscribe and ring the bell. And if you have any opinions on any of the things we brought up, or if you want us to talk more about anything in particular,
Oh, yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
Leave a comment below telling us all about it.
All right. So until next time, I'm David Hankins,
I'm Paul Hankins.
and you've been on the air with Power Squared.